My stepdaughter missed the most important volleyball scout match of her life. My stepson failed a science fair project that determined 30% of his final grade. And my husband's ex-wife is currently facing a custody modification hearing that she initiated, but is now desperately trying to cancel. For 3 years, I was the glue keeping a fractured family from falling apart. I was the chauffeur, the tutor, the emotional support animal, and the logistics manager. But when I discovered that my efforts were being used as ammunition to teach the children that I was nothing more than daddy's temporary roommate, I decided to test that theory. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I simply became exactly what they asked me to be. And the silence that followed was deafening. To understand how a text message destroyed the status quo, we have to go back to a Tuesday afternoon. I have been married to Trevor for 2 years, but I've been in Hazel and Owen's lives for 3. Hazel is 14, a fierce volleyball player with the emotional volatility of a Category 5 hurricane. Owen is 11, a quiet kid who needs his sandwiches cut diagonally because he swears the triangles taste better. Being a step-parent is a thankless job by design. You step into a movie that's already halfway over, and you're expected to know the plot, the characters, and the backstory immediately. I took that challenge seriously. I learned that Hazel needed her backpack placed by the front door the night before school, or she would spiral into a panic attack at 7 o'clock a.m. I knew that Owen had recurring nightmares about getting lost, so I was the one who checked the window locks with him every night until he felt safe enough to sleep. I knew the names of Hazel's crushes before her father did. I knew which teachers responded to emails and which ones needed a phone call. I managed the permission slips, the doctor appointments, and the forgotten lunches. I did the mental load that usually breaks biological parents, and I did it with a smile because I loved them. But there was always Vanessa. Vanessa, their biological mother, had a unique talent for rewriting history. She was the fun mom. She was the weekend parent who bought them the newest iPhones and took them to theme parks, while I was the one enforcing bedtime and making sure vegetables were eaten. That dynamic is common, and I could handle it. What I couldn't handle was the slow drip feed of poison she was injecting into my home. It started small, comments about how I was trying too hard, remarks that I wasn't real family. But over the last 6 months, it had escalated. She bought the kids new smartphones, ostensibly as a generous gift. In reality, they were direct lines of communication for her to micromanage our time. She would text them during our family dinners asking if I was feeding them cheap food. She would FaceTime them during movie nights to ask if they were bored. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. I was working from home, walking through the kitchen to refill my coffee. Hazel had left her phone on the counter while she was in the bathroom. The screen lit up with a notification. I didn't mean to snoop, but the preview was long, and the font was large. It was a group text from Vanessa to both kids. Mom says we don't have to pretend anymore. Be polite, but remember she's just Dad's roommate. You don't have to listen to her like she's a parent. She's a stranger who lives in your house. Don't let her think she has authority. Below that, a reply from Hazel, K. Love you, Mom. And a thumbs up from Owen. I stood there, gripping my coffee mug until my knuckles turned white. It wasn't the anger that hit me first. It was the exhaustion. It was the crushing weight of 3 years of thankless labor. I had quizzed Hazel for every math test. I had held Owen while he cried over a scraped knee. I had built a home for them. And in one text, they had agreed that I was a stranger. A stranger. A roommate. Something inside me didn't just break. It resolved. It was a quiet snapping sound, like a bridge finally giving way after bearing too much weight for too long. If they wanted a stranger, I would give them the best performance of a stranger they had ever seen. I put the phone back exactly as I found it. I didn't confront Hazel when she came back into the kitchen. I didn't call Trevor, who was 2 hours away at a project site in Springfield. I went back to my office, closed the door, and went back to work. The next morning, Wednesday, began the lesson. My alarm went off at 5:30 am. Usually, this is when I start the machine. I make breakfast, I pack lunches, I ensure Hazel's jersey is clean, and I double-check Owen's backpack. Not today. Today, I made coffee for myself. I showered, dressed, and sat in the living room with my laptop. Trevor had left at 5 o'clock am for his site visit, meaning I was the only adult in the house. At 6:15 am, Hazel came thundering down the stairs. She was in her volleyball uniform, knee pads on, hair wet. She had that hyper-focused look she gets before a tournament. "Can you drive me early today?" she asked, not even looking at me, digging through the fridge. "I need to be there by 6:45 for warm-ups. Coach said if we're late, we don't start." I didn't look up from my screen. "You'll need to ask your dad about rides." She paused, a carton of orange juice in her hand. She blinked, processing the sentence. "Dad's in Springfield. He left hours ago." "You know that." "I do know that," I said calmly. "So I guess you'll need to figure out alternative transportation." She turned around fully. "The juice forgotten." "What? You're joking, right? We have to leave in 10 minutes. "I'm not joking," I said, finally meeting her eyes. "I'm busy." "Busy with what?" Her voice spiked an octave. "You work from home. You always drive me." "I often drive you," I corrected. "But strangers don't rearrange their work schedules to chauffeur other people's children. Roommates certainly don't." The color drained from her face. She recognized the words. Of course she did. She had read them yesterday. You saw my phone?" "I saw a notification," I said. "And I realized your mother is right, Hazel. I've been overstepping. I shouldn't act like a parent. I should act like a roommate. And roommates don't run a taxi service." "You can't do this," she screamed. "This is the scout tournament. If I miss warm-ups, I'm benched." "That sounds incredibly stressful," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "I hope you find a solution." She scrambled for her phone. She called Vanessa. No answer. Vanessa sleeps until 9. She called Trevor, straight to voicemail, as he was on a construction site. She started texting her teammates, panic rising in her voice. But it was 6:25 am. Most parents were already driving or had full cars. Hazel spent the next hour pacing the kitchen, sobbing and screaming at me. She threw insults, she begged, she bargained. I sat there, calm and immovable. I wasn't being cruel. I was being consistent. She missed the tournament. She didn't just miss warm-ups. She missed the entire game. Her team lost. The coach called Trevor's phone and left a voicemail asking why the family's usually impeccable punctuality had collapsed. Hazel retreated to her room, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I felt a twinge of guilt, the old instinct to fix it, to soothe her. But then I remembered the text. She's a stranger. 2 days later, it was Owen's turn. Owen had a science fair project due Friday morning. It was a classic papier-mâché volcano, but with a complex chemical hypothesis component. For 2 weeks, the half-formed structure had been sitting on the dining room table. In any other timeline, I would have been the project manager. I would have reminded him of the drying times. I would have bought the specific red acrylic paint he needed. I would have proofread his display board labels because his handwriting is atrocious. I would have stayed up until midnight Thursday helping him glue the moss to the base. Thursday night rolled around. 8:30 p.m. Owen wandered into the kitchen where I was reading a book. He looked pale. "I can't get the paint to stick," he mumbled. "And I haven't typed the hypothesis yet." I turned a page. "That sounds like a problem. Can you help me?" he asked. "I don't know how to make the labels look straight." I looked at him. He was 11, and he was sweet. And this was hard. But he had sent that thumbs-up emoji. He had agreed to the terms. "Owen," I said gently, "your mom said that I'm just Dad's roommate. Parents help with science projects. Roommates watch Netflix. I think you should probably ask your mom for help. Mom's at her house," he whined. "And Dad's on a conference call. Then I guess you have to do it yourself," I said. "But I'll fail." Tears welled up in his eyes. "Mr. Henderson fails anyone who doesn't have a type board." "I'm sure you'll do your best," I said, and went back to my book. The wailing started 5 minutes later. He tried to paint it, spilled black paint on the rug, which I noted I would have to bill his father for cleaning, and smeared the labels. He had a full meltdown at 9:30 p.m. Trevor finally came out of his office at 10 o'clock p.m. to find a disaster zone, a crying child, a ruined volcano, and a wife calmly drinking tea. "What is going on here?" Trevor asked, rubbing his temples. "Why is Owen crying? Why isn't this done?" "I don't know how to do it," Owen screamed. "And she won't help me." Trevor looked at me confused. "Honey, can't you just print the labels for him? You know how to use the design software." This was the moment, the turning point. I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked over to the counter where my phone was charging. Trevor, we need to have a family meeting. Now. Wake up, Hazel. It's 10 o'clock at night. Trevor snapped. Get Hazel, I said. The tone of my voice was one he hadn't heard before. It was the voice of someone who has already signed the exit papers in their mind. 5 minutes later, we were all at the table. Hazel was puffy-eyed from her missed tournament. Owen was covered in paint and snot. Trevor looked exhausted and annoyed. I am going to show you something, I said. And then I am going to explain the new rules of this house. I pulled up the screenshot of the text message I had sent to myself. I cast it to the large TV in the living room so everyone could see it clearly. Mom says we don't have to pretend anymore. She's a stranger who lives in your house. The silence in the room was absolute. Trevor read the text. Then he read Hazel's reply. Then he saw Owen's thumbs up. Trevor's face went a shade of red I had never seen. He looked at Hazel. You agreed to this? Mom said. Hazel started, her voice trembling. I don't care what your mother said, Trevor said, his voice dangerously low. I care that this woman, he pointed at me, has driven you to every practice, cooked every meal, and helped you with every scrap of homework for 3 years. And you call her a stranger? I didn't mean it. Owen sobbed. Mom gets mad if we don't agree with her. So you threw me under the bus to make your mom happy, I said. I get it. It's easier. But here is the reality check. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot treat me like a stranger when it comes to respect, and then expect me to be a parent when it comes to service. I looked at Trevor. I am stepping back. Completely. I am resigning as the household manager. I will not drive. I will not cook for anyone but myself. I will not remind you of birthdays, deadlines, or permission slips. If Vanessa wants to be the only mother, she can step up and do the actual work. I am done. Trevor looked at the kids. Go to bed. Both of you. We are dealing with this tomorrow. The next morning, the fallout was nuclear. Owen went to school with a lumpy, wet volcano. He received a D-. Trevor had to leave work early to pick Hazel up because she forgot the bus schedule, something I usually managed. But the real explosion happened when Vanessa found out. She stormed over on Saturday morning. She didn't knock. She pounded on the door. Trevor opened it, and she pushed past him, marching right up to me in the living room. You petty, vindictive witch, she screamed. You made Hazel miss the scout tournament? Do you know how bad that looks for her college applications? Hello, Vanessa, I said. Would you like a glass of water? I think roommates offer guests water. Don't play games with me. You neglected my children. I could call CPS. Actually, Trevor stepped in, blocking her path. You told the children she was a stranger. You told them she had no authority. You explicitly instructed them to treat her like a roommate. She simply followed your parenting plan. I didn't mean stop taking care of them. Vanessa shrieked. I meant stop trying to replace me. You can't have the labor without the respect, I said, standing up. You want the credit for being the mom. You want the love? Fine. Take the work. All of it. From now on, you are responsible for all transportation. You are responsible for all school projects. You are responsible for the doctor's appointments. If they need something during the day, they call you. I work. Vanessa sputtered. I can't leave in the middle of the day. Neither can I said. But I did. For 3 years. And you thanked me by telling them I was nobody. Trevor handed Vanessa a printed sheet of paper. This is the schedule for next week. Hazel has practice Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Owen has tutoring Tuesday, Thursday. The dentist is on Wednesday at p.m. We expect you to handle all of it. I can't do that, she whispered, looking at the schedule. Then you better figure out how to co-parent with respect, Trevor said. The resolution wasn't instant, but the power shift was. The next 2 weeks were hell for Vanessa. She was late picking them up 4 times. She forgot Owen's allergy medication. She missed a parent-teacher conference. The fun mom facade crumbled the moment she had to do the boring mom work. The kids broke first. On a Tuesday night, 2 weeks after the text, Hazel came into my office. She stood awkwardly in the doorway. I'm sorry, she said. I turned my chair around. What are you sorry for? For the text, and for taking you for granted. Mom is really stressed. She yells a lot in the car. You never yelled in the car. I appreciate the apology, Hazel. Can we go back to normal? She asked. Please? I have a history paper due, and I don't know how to cite sources. We can go back to a new version of normal. I told her. I will help you. But if I ever see a text like that again, or if I ever feel that disrespect again, the roommate comes back. Permanently. Do we understand each other? Yes, she said, and she hugged me. It was the first time she had initiated a hug in 6 months. Trevor took Vanessa back to court, not to take the kids away, but to get a court order mandating the use of a co-parenting app where all communication is monitored. The judge, upon seeing the text messages Vanessa sent the children, was not amused. He admonished her for parental alienation. I still help with the sandwiches. I still drive to volleyball, but the dynamic has changed. I'm not doing it because I'm desperate for their approval anymore. I'm doing it because I'm their stepmom, and they respect that role now. Vanessa is much quieter these days. She learned the hard way that if you treat the people helping you like garbage, eventually, they'll stop taking out the trash.